They thought they could erase me. They thought they could burn away my existence like ashes in the wind. But ghosts have a way of coming back, and I am very much alive. The nightmare always starts the same way. Sand, blood, the deafening crack of gunfire echoing through the valley. I'm crouched behind a crumbling wall in some godforsaken village in Afghanistan, my rifle trembling in my hands as enemy bullets whistle past my head. My squad is pinned down, and I can hear Jenkins screaming for a medic. The smell of cordite and death fills my nostrils. Then the explosion. The world goes white, and I'm falling into darkness. I wake up in my cramped studio apartment in downtown Seattle, sheets soaked with sweat, my heart hammering against my ribs like a caged bird. The digital clock on my nightstand glows 3:47 a.m., another sleepless night in what has become an endless string of them since I returned from my third deployment 6 months ago. But tonight is different. Tonight, I have somewhere to be. My name is Avery Blackwood, and today I'm going to attend my grandfather's will reading. Gus Blackwood, the man who raised me when my parents were too busy building their empire to notice their eldest daughter existed. The man who taught me how to ride a bike, how to throw a punch, and how to stand up for myself in a world that seemed determined to knock me down. The only person in my family who ever truly saw me. I pull on a black dress, the only formal clothing I own that isn't my military uniform. As I brush my short auburn hair, I catch my reflection in the cracked mirror. The scar running from my left temple to my jawline serves as a permanent reminder of that last mission, the one that earned me a Purple Heart and a medical discharge. The military doctors said I was lucky to be alive. My family said I was lucky to be coming home. Neither felt particularly lucky at the time. The law offices of Hamilton and Associates occupy the top floor of a gleaming downtown tower, all marble and mahogany, and the kind of understated wealth that whispers rather than shouts. I arrive 15 minutes early, but I'm still the last one there. My family has always prided itself on punctuality, among other things. Leo Blackwood, my father, sits rigidly in a leather chair, his silver hair perfectly styled, his $1,000 suit impeccable as always. At 62, he carries himself with the bearing of a man who has never been told no, who has built Blackwood Industries from a modest construction company into a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. His pale blue eyes don't meet mine as I enter. Beside him sits Martha, though she's insisted everyone call her Marty since she married into the family 20 years ago. My stepmother is everything my biological mother wasn't. Blonde, polished, and ruthlessly ambitious. At 60, she's maintained the kind of artificial beauty that money can buy, but there's something cold in her green eyes that no amount of cosmetic surgery can fix. And then there's Chloe, my half-sister, perched on the edge of her chair like a predator ready to strike. At 32, she's 2 years younger than me but has always acted like she owns the world. Her designer clothes and perfect makeup can't quite hide the sneer that crosses her face when she sees me. "Oh, look who crawled back from the gutter," Chloe says, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "I thought you had died somewhere, Avery." Leo glances at me briefly, then looks away. His silence is somehow more cutting than any words could be. Marty offers me a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. "Avery, dear, so good to see you," she says in that saccharine tone she's perfected over the years. "You look, well." I don't respond to any of them. I've learned that silence can be its own form of armor. Instead, I take a seat across the room and wait. Mr. Hamilton, a distinguished man in his 70s who has handled the Blackwood family's legal affairs for decades, enters with a thick folder and a somber expression. He offers his condolences, which I accept with a nod. Gus had been sick for months, his liver finally giving out after years of whiskey and cigars, but somehow his death still feels sudden, final in a way I wasn't prepared for. "Before we begin," Hamilton says, adjusting his glasses, "I want to remind everyone that Gus was very specific about his wishes. These decisions were made with careful consideration and are not open to dispute." He begins reading the will in that formal, measured tone that lawyers perfect. Small bequests to household staff, donations to various charities, and then the moment we've all been waiting for. "To my son, Leo Blackwood, I leave the sum of $5 million and my collection of vintage automobiles, with the hope that he will finally learn the difference between the price of everything and the value of nothing." Leo's jaw tightens, but he says nothing. $5 million is a substantial sum to most people, but it's pocket change compared to the family's total worth. "To my stepdaughter-in-law, Martha Blackwood, I leave the sum of $1 million, and my sincere hope that she will find peace in whatever hole she chooses to crawl into." Marty's perfectly composed facade cracks just slightly. The insult is subtle but unmistakable, and I have to suppress a smile. "To my granddaughter Chloe Blackwood, I leave the sum of $2 million in the cottage in Martha's vineyard, with the recommendation that she use both wisely, as second chances are rarely granted." Chloe looks like she's been slapped. The cottage is beautiful, but it's hardly the windfall she was expecting. "And finally, to my granddaughter, Avery Blackwood, who has shown more courage in her 34 years than the rest of this family combined, I leave the remainder of my estate, including $50 million in liquid assets and controlling interest in Blackwood Industries, representing 65% of all outstanding shares. The silence that follows is deafening. I can hear the blood rushing in my ears, can feel 3 pairs of eyes boring into me with varying degrees of shock, rage, and disbelief. 65%. That means I don't just inherit money. I inherit control of the entire family empire. Hamilton continues reading, explaining the terms and conditions, but I'm barely listening. I'm watching my family's faces as the reality sinks in. Leo has gone pale, his hands clenched into fists. Marty's green eyes have turned to ice, and I can practically see the wheels turning in her head. But it's Chloe who breaks first. "This is insane," she shrieks, jumping to her feet. "She's been gone for years. She doesn't know anything about running a business. Grandpa must have been senile when he wrote this." "The will is ironclad," Hamilton says calmly. "Gus was of sound mind when he dictated these terms to me personally just 3 months ago." Leo finally speaks, his voice low and dangerous. "There has to be some mistake. Avery has no experience, no education in business. She's been playing soldier while the rest of us built this company." "Playing soldier?" The words are out of my mouth before I can stop them. "I served 3 tours of duty, Dad. I bled for my country while you were bleeding your customers dry." "Don't you dare take that tone with me," Leo snarls, rising from his chair. "You're nothing but an ungrateful brat who ran away to play war games because you couldn't handle real life." The insult hits harder than I expected, mainly because there's a grain of truth in it. I did leave after high school, desperate to escape the suffocating expectations and constant criticism. The military gave me purpose, structure, a place where my skills mattered more than my pedigree. Hamilton clears his throat and produces a sealed envelope. "Gus asked me to give this to you privately, Avery. He said you would understand when the time came." I take the envelope with trembling fingers. My name is written across it in Gus's familiar scrawl. I start to open it, but Leo's voice stops me. "If you think we're going to stand by and watch you destroy everything we've built, you're mistaken," he says, his face red with rage. "This company is my life's work." "Your life's work?" I laugh, but there's no humor in it. "You inherited a successful construction company from Grandpa and expanded it. You didn't build anything from scratch." "That's enough," Marty interjects, her voice sharp as a blade. "We need to discuss this as a family, privately." "There's nothing to discuss," I say, standing. "The will is clear." Hamilton produces a cashier's check for $50 million and hands it to me. The numbers are so large they barely seem real. For a moment, I just stare at it. This piece of paper that represents more money than I could spend in several lifetimes. That's when Leo snaps. He lunges forward and snatches the check from my hands before I can react. His face is twisted with fury as he holds it up. "This is what you deserve, you ungrateful little bitch," he snarls, and then he does something that will haunt me for the rest of my life. He lights his gold cigarette lighter and sets the check on fire. I watch in stunned silence as $50 million goes up in flames. But it's not the money that hurts, it's the symbolism. In that moment, Leo isn't just burning a check, he's burning me. He's burning any relationship we might have had, any hope of reconciliation or acceptance. He's telling me, in the clearest terms possible, that I am worth nothing to him. The check burns to ash in his hands, and he lets the remains flutter to the expensive carpet. "There," he says, grinding the ashes under his Italian leather shoe. "That's your inheritance, you worthless piece of shit. Now get out of my sight." I look around the room at my family. Chloe is smirking with satisfaction. Marty's face is unreadable, but I can see the calculation in her eyes. Leo is breathing hard, his chest heaving with rage. None of them look surprised by what just happened. None of them protest. In that moment, I realize this wasn't a spontaneous outburst. This was planned. I don't cry. I don't scream. I don't beg or plead or try to make them understand. Instead, I do something that clearly unnerves them. I smile. It's a cold, knowing smile that makes Chloe's smirk falter and causes Marty to shift uncomfortably in her chair. "You know what, Dad?" I say, my voice perfectly calm. "You're right. That is exactly what I deserve from you. Nothing." I turn to leave, but Hamilton stops me. "Avery, the stock certificates and other documents. Send them to my apartment," I say without turning around. "I'll be in touch." As I walk toward the elevator, I hear Chloe's nervous laughter behind me. Well, that was dramatic. I guess we know where she gets her flair for theatrics. The elevator doors close, cutting off their voices, and I'm alone with my reflection in the polished steel. The woman staring back at me looks calm, composed, unbroken. But inside, I'm reeling. Not from the money, though $50 million would have solved a lot of problems. No, I'm reeling from the sheer cruelty of what just happened, the calculated nature of it. They wanted to humiliate me. They wanted to break me down and send me crawling away with my tail between my legs. They wanted to erase me from the family entirely. The doors open on the parking garage, and I walk to my beat-up Honda Civic, the same car I've driven since college. As I sit behind the wheel, my hands shake as I try to process what just happened. Then I remember the envelope. I tear it open with trembling fingers. Inside is a USB drive and a note written in Gus's distinctive handwriting. Avery, if you're reading this, then they've shown their true colors. You don't need their money. You need the truth. Find Eli Walker. He's the only one who can help you now. The game is rigged, but you have the power to change the rules. Trust no one else. Love, Grandpa. For the first time since I walked into that law office, I feel something other than pain. I feel curiosity. And beneath that, the faintest stirring of something that might be hope. I drive home through the Seattle traffic, my mind racing. The apartment I rent is in a rundown building in Capitol Hill, a far cry from the luxury I grew up with, but honest in a way the family mansion never was. As I climb the 3 flights of stairs to my door, I'm already planning my next move. But when I reach my floor, I stop cold. My apartment door is standing wide open. I approach cautiously, my military training kicking in. The lock hasn't been forced. Someone used a key. Inside, my meager possessions are scattered across the floor. My laptop is gone, along with my external hard drive and any documents I had stored here. But it's not a random burglary. Nothing else is missing, not even the $50 in cash I kept in my desk drawer. On my kitchen table, I find a manila envelope with my name on it. Inside are eviction papers, effective immediately, and a notice that my lease has been terminated due to violation of terms. The documents are signed by the building's property management company, but I recognize the corporate letterhead, Blackwood Industries. My family owns my building. They've owned it all along, and I never knew. I sit down heavily on my couch, the only piece of furniture they didn't destroy in their search. The message is clear. They don't just want to humiliate me, they want to erase me entirely. They want to make sure I have nowhere to go, no resources to fight back, no way to challenge what happened today. But they've made one crucial mistake. They think I'm the same broken girl who left home at 18, desperate to escape their criticism and control. They don't understand what the military has taught me, what war has made me. I'm not the victim they think I am. I pull out my phone and do a quick search for Eli Walker. It takes some digging, but I finally find a reference to him in an old newspaper article about a federal fraud case. Eli the Ghost Walker, former FBI special agent turned private investigator, specializes in financial crimes and identity fraud. The article is 3 years old, but it gives me a starting point. The address leads me to a dive bar in Belltown called The Anchor. It's the kind of place where questions aren't asked and cash is king. I walk in just after sunset, my eyes adjusting to the dim lighting and cigarette smoke. The bartender, a grizzled man with arms covered in nautical tattoos, barely glances up when I approach. "I'm looking for Eli Walker," I say. He jerks his head toward a corner booth where a man sits alone, nursing a whiskey and reading a newspaper. Eli Walker is not what I expected. He's maybe 50, with graying hair and the kind of weathered face that speaks of too many late nights and hard choices. His clothes are rumpled, his tie loosened, but his eyes are sharp and alert. "Mr. Walker?" I approach his table cautiously. He looks up from his paper, taking in my appearance with a quick, professional assessment. "Depends on who's asking and why." "My name is Avery Blackwood. My grandfather said you could help me." Something flickers in his expression. "Gus Blackwood, hell of a man. Sorry for your loss." He gestures to the seat across from him. "What kind of help are we talking about?" I sit down and place the USB drive on the table between us. My family has stolen my inheritance and is trying to erase me from existence. Literally. They've faked documents, destroyed evidence, and I have reason to believe they're going to declare me legally dead. Eli raises an eyebrow. "That's a hell of an accusation. What makes you think they'd go that far?" "Because they've already started," I say, and I tell him everything. The will reading, the burned check, the break-in, the eviction papers. As I talk, Eli's expression grows more serious. "Your grandfather contacted me about 6 months ago," he says finally. "Said he was worried about some irregularities in the family business, some transactions that didn't add up. He hired me to do some preliminary research, but he died before I could present my findings." "What did you find?" "Shell companies, offshore accounts, a paper trail that leads nowhere and everywhere at the same time. Your stepmother is smarter than she looks, and your father is more corrupt than you probably realize. They've been siphoning money from the company for years, setting up a network that would make it very easy to make certain assets disappear. The pieces start falling into place, including me. Including you." He picks up the USB drive and examines it. "Gus was a paranoid old bastard, but in the best possible way. If he left you this, it's because he knew something was coming." He looks at me seriously. "Question is, are you ready for war? Because that's what this is going to be." I think about the look in Leo's eyes when he burned that check, the satisfaction on Chloe's face, the cold calculation in Marty's expression. I think about the apartment I can't return to, the life they're trying to take from me piece by piece. "I've been to war before," I say. "This time I'm fighting for something that matters." Eli grins, and for the first time since Gus died, I feel like I'm not alone. In that case, let's go see what your grandfather left you. We drive to Eli's office, which turns out to be a converted warehouse in an industrial part of town. The outside looks abandoned, but inside it's a high-tech command center with multiple computers, surveillance equipment, and enough electronic gadgets to make the FBI jealous. Impressive, I say, looking around. 20 years with the Bureau teaches you a few things about staying under the radar, he says, plugging the USB drive into one of his computers. Plus, I have a partner who's something of a tech genius. As if summoned by his words, a young woman emerges from behind a bank of servers. She's maybe 30, with purple hair, multiple piercings, and the kind of intense focus that marks a true hacker. Kai, meet Avery Blackwood, Eli says. Avery, this is Kai Chen. She can break into Fort Knox with a laptop and a Wi-Fi connection. Not Fort Knox, Kai corrects, but pretty much everything else. She looks me up and down. So you're the dead girl walking. Heard about your family's little magic trick. You know about that? Honey, I've been monitoring your digital footprint since your grandfather hired us. In the last 4 hours, you've been declared dead by the Social Security Administration, your bank accounts have been frozen pending probate, and your credit cards have been canceled. Oh, and someone's been using your identity to sign legal documents transferring your inheritance to a shell company in the Cayman Islands. The room spins slightly. How is that possible? Money and connections. Eli says grimly, your family has both, but they got sloppy, probably because they didn't expect you to fight back. He turns to Kai. What's on the drive? Kai plugs it in and starts typing furiously. After a few minutes, she lets out a low whistle. Holy shit, your grandfather was thorough. She turns the screen toward us. Bank records, email correspondences, financial statements, recorded phone conversations. This is a complete record of every shady deal your family has made for the past 5 years. I lean forward, scanning the documents. The scope of it is staggering. Bribery, tax evasion, money laundering, fraud on a massive scale. How did he get all this? Your grandfather was old school, Eli explains. He believed in keeping records, having insurance. Looks like he's been documenting everything for years, probably as protection against exactly what's happening now. Kai points to a series of bank transfers. Look at this. They've been moving money offshore for months, setting up the infrastructure to steal your inheritance. The timing isn't coincidental. They knew what was in the will. Gus told them, I realize, he told them what he was planning, maybe to give them a chance to do the right thing. And instead, they decided to eliminate the problem. Eli says, We work through the night, building a case that would make a federal prosecutor weep with joy. By dawn, we have enough evidence to destroy my family 10 times over. But evidence is only useful if you can present it, and right now, I'm legally dead. We need to move fast, Eli says, stretching and cracking his neck. Every hour we wait gives them more time to cover their tracks. What's the plan? We're going to give them exactly what they want, Kai says with a wicked grin. We're going to let them think they've won, let them get comfortable, and then we're going to burn their whole world down. The next few days pass in a blur of preparation. Kai works her magic on computer systems, creating false identities, backdoors into corporate networks, and digital breadcrumbs that will lead investigators exactly where we want them to go. Eli uses his contacts in law enforcement and the media to set up a network of allies who will move when we give the signal. And I disappear. Officially, Avery Blackwood is dead, her death certificate filed with the state, her affairs settled by grieving family members who are devastated by her tragic passing. But the woman who emerges from this process is someone new, someone harder, someone who has nothing left to lose. I watch from a distance as my family celebrates their victory. Leo appears on the local business news, talking about expanding Blackwood Industries in honor of his late father. Marty gives an interview to Seattle Magazine about the importance of family legacy. Chloe posts on social media about the tragic loss of her sister, complete with crocodile tears and carefully staged photos. They think they've won. They think I'm gone for good, another problem solved with money and influence. They have no idea that every move they make is being monitored, recorded, and added to the mountain of evidence that will bury them. The plan comes together like a precision military operation. We start small, with anonymous tips to regulatory agencies about irregularities in Blackwood Industries' financial reports. Then Kai releases some of the offshore banking information to investigative journalists, making it look like a leaked document from a disgruntled employee. The first cracks in their facade appear within a week. Stock prices start to drop as investors get nervous about the rumors. Federal investigators begin asking questions about the shell companies. The media starts digging into the family's finances with the enthusiasm of bloodhounds on a scent. But the real masterpiece comes when we simultaneously file wrongful death lawsuits in 3 different jurisdictions, each one backed by ironclad evidence of fraud and conspiracy. The lawsuits claim that Avery Blackwood was murdered by her family for her inheritance, and the evidence we present is so compelling that it makes national news within hours. I watch it unfold from Eli's office, monitoring news feeds and social media as my family's world begins to crumble. Leo appears on television, his usual composure cracking as he denies any wrongdoing. Marty releases a statement through her lawyers, claiming the accusations are baseless. Chloe simply disappears from public view, her social media accounts going dark. But the damage is done. Federal investigators raid Blackwood Industries, seizing computers and financial records. The SEC freezes the company's assets pending investigation. Criminal charges are filed against all 3 family members for fraud, conspiracy, and racketeering. The trial becomes a media sensation. I testify via video link, appearing as a key witness in my own wrongful death case. The irony isn't lost on anyone, least of all the jury. I tell them about the will reading, about the burned check, about coming home to find my life systematically destroyed. Leo takes the stand in his own defense, and it's painful to watch. The man who once commanded respect in boardrooms across the country is reduced to a stammering, defensive shell of himself. He tries to paint me as an unstable veteran who abandoned the family and has now returned to destroy them out of spite. But the evidence speaks louder than his words. Bank records, recorded conversations, email chains, all of it pointing to a coordinated effort to eliminate me and steal my inheritance. The offshore accounts, the shell companies, the forged documents, all of it meticulously planned and executed. Marty doesn't testify. Her lawyers advise against it, probably because they know she would be eviscerated on cross-examination. She sits in the defendant's chair like a statue, her perfect composure never wavering, even as witness after witness destroys her credibility. Chloe breaks down completely. She takes a plea deal, agreeing to testify against her parents in exchange for a reduced sentence. On the stand, she's a weeping mess, claiming she was manipulated and coerced into participating in the scheme. She throws Leo and Marty under the bus so hard it's almost comical. The verdict comes back unanimous on all counts. Leo gets 15 years in federal prison, Marty gets 20, Chloe gets 5 with the possibility of parole in 3. Blackwood Industries is placed in receivership, its assets frozen pending resolution of the various lawsuits and criminal restitution orders. But the real victory comes 3 months later, when I walk into the federal courthouse for the final settlement hearing. I'm no longer legally dead, that status was reversed as part of the criminal case. My inheritance has been restored, along with substantial damages for the emotional and financial harm I suffered. I own Blackwood Industries now, free and clear. 65% of the stock, just as Gus intended, plus additional shares that were seized as criminal assets. I have the power to reshape the company, to build something better from the ashes of my family's corruption. The first thing I do is clean house. Every executive who participated in or knew about the scheme is terminated immediately. I bring in new leadership, people with integrity and vision who understand that business success shouldn't come at the expense of basic human decency. The second thing I do is establish the Avery Blackwood Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping veterans and abuse survivors rebuild their lives. It's funded by a substantial portion of my inheritance, money that my family tried to steal but that now serves a purpose they never could have imagined. The foundation grows quickly, becoming a beacon of hope for people who have been written off by society. We provide legal assistance, financial support, job training, and counseling services. We fight for the forgotten, the discarded, the people who have been told they don't matter. I visit Leo and Marty in prison once, about a year after their sentencing. They look older, smaller, diminished by their orange jumpsuits and the harsh reality of their situation. Leo tries to play the victim, telling me that I've destroyed the family legacy, that I've ruined everything he worked for. You didn't work for anything, I tell him calmly. You inherited a company from your father and corrupted it. You tried to steal from your own daughter and failed. This isn't my destruction of your legacy. This is your legacy. Marty just stares at me with those cold green eyes, unrepentant to the end. She doesn't speak, doesn't try to justify or explain. In some ways, I respect her honesty more than Leo's self-pity. You thought you could erase me, I say, standing to leave. You thought you could make me disappear, turn me into nothing more than an inconvenient memory, but I'm still here, and I'm stronger than I've ever been. As I walk away, I hear Leo calling after me, his voice echoing off the prison walls. But I don't look back. That chapter of my life is closed, and I'm writing a new one. 5 years later, I stand in the executive conference room of the Blackwood Industries Tower, looking out at the Seattle skyline. The company has transformed under my leadership, becoming a model of corporate responsibility and ethical business practices. We're more profitable than ever, but more importantly, we're making a positive impact on the world. The foundation has expanded nationwide, helping thousands of veterans and abuse survivors rebuild their lives. We've changed laws, influenced policy, and given voice to the voiceless. We've proven that businesses can be both successful and socially responsible. I think about Gus sometimes, wondering what he would think of what I've built from the ashes of his legacy. I think he would be proud, not just of the financial success but of the way I've used his gift to help others. He gave me more than money. He gave me the tools to transform pain into purpose. The scar on my face has faded over the years, but it's still visible in certain light. I could have had it surgically removed, but I choose to keep it. It reminds me of who I was, what I've survived, and how far I've come. It's a testament to resilience, to the power of refusing to be erased. They thought they could burn me down, reduce me to ash and memory. They thought they could steal not just my inheritance but my very existence, my right to be part of the family I was born into. They were wrong. I am Avery Blackwood. I am a veteran, a survivor, a builder of something better than what came before. I am proof that you can be broken and still be whole, that you can be forgotten and still make yourself remembered. This isn't the end of my story. It's just the beginning of the legacy I choose to leave behind. A legacy that can't be stolen, can't be burned, can't be erased. A legacy built on the simple but revolutionary idea that everyone deserves to be seen, to be valued, to matter. They tried to make me disappear. Instead, I made myself impossible to ignore.